Wendy. Good afternoon, everyone. I previously worked with Wendy in the DFE team back in 2010, and I've been working with Interface since its inception. I provide a range of training across the country, in particular supervision training, and I feel especially committed to promoting the principles of reflective practice and critical thinking. There we go. Okay. So thanks for joining the webinar today on effective supervision. So with more practitioners being asked to work with individuals and families with complex needs and an increasing focus of whole family working, there's an increased need for managers to provide regular and effective supervision. Through our training, consultancy and research work, we have spoken with many managers from a diverse range of settings: children's centres, schools, family intervention and specialist services. They have shared some of their key challenges when it comes to providing effective supervision. Here are some of the things they have told us. Time. Most managers and supervisors cite time as one of their biggest challenges. As caseloads and the complexity of cases increase, so do the demands for the supervisor. It is not just finding the time to complete supervision, but the length of time this can take due to the complexity of cases that require discussion and action. A shared understanding of supervision and its purpose. Often, supervision is provided against a backdrop of organisational policy that is rarely translated equally between managers and workers. It is always worthwhile to revisit what supervision means to you and to your teams and agree on its aims and purpose. Reiterate the parts of supervision that are negotiable and those that are non-negotiable. Workers being unprepared for supervision. Managers often share their frustration that workers come unprepared for their supervision. Workers want to use the time to offload rather than be clear about where they need support or decisions made. This lack of focus often results in very lengthy supervisions that can sometimes lack structure, and there is a risk that important information is not shared as workers are unable to prioritise issues. Supporting workers to stay focused and preventing case drift. Without good assessments and well-crafted support plans, cases are likely to drift. Managers tell us that they find it difficult to support workers to stay on track. Balancing the different functions of supervision. With time being key, it is difficult to balance time for case management, reflective practice and professional development, as well as supporting staff on a personal level to reduce stress and build resilience. Providing ad hoc supervision. Many managers voice concerns about how to record discussions and actions following ad hoc conversations about cases. Whilst managers want to have open door policies and be available for case discussions, there is an acknowledgement that information is vulnerable as robust systems are not in place to record off-the-cuff decisions and actions. And effective record keeping. Further to points raised about recording and ad hoc discussions, managers share frustrations about having consistent templates and processes in place to guide and set the agenda for supervision, and thus ensuring that supervision records are triangulated with case files and data management systems. Tony Morrison developed a 4x4x4 model for supervision. Within this, he identified 4 functions of supervision. These are the management function that reviews competence and ensures accountable performance and practice, the development function that would include reflective practice to support continued professional development, the support function that would help to identify areas of risk and potential stress and identify the foundations for building resilience in workers and teams, and finally, the mediation function that engages and advocates between the worker and the organisation. So in considering these functions of supervision, and in light of some of the key challenges that managers face, there are a number of considerations and factors that can support good practice in providing supervision. These are supporting workers to prepare, reflective practice, case management, identifying and responding to stress, and effective record keeping. I'm now just going to go through these each in turn. Supporting workers to better prepare for supervision. Using a supervision record template that helps guide the agenda. A good template can ensure that regular agenda items are always covered, as well as providing consistency for the worker. Consider using a template for workers to help them focus on the key issues. Some workers come to supervision with either too little or to discuss, or at times too much. In these cases, setting about 3 or 4 questions for the worker to answer in advance of supervision can support the worker to focus, get prepared, and prioritise issues for discussion. Encourage workers to be reflective and to develop self-awareness. Provide opportunities where possible for group and peer supervision. And agree an individual supervision contract so supervision feels collaborative and consistent. Reflective practice is made up of 3 components: the process for reflection itself, developing reflexivity and self-awareness, and the ability to develop critical thinking and analytical skills. It is essential that workers are given the space and time to develop each of these equally. However, what often happens in supervision and in a supervisory capacity is that we often try to problem solve by looking for a quick fix. This short circuit bypasses time for reflection or analysis, which are essential elements of developing safe practice, maintaining professional boundaries, building skills and knowledge, and developing professional practice. Workers learn to merely copy actions that managers have decided, rather than allowing them to build the intellectual scaffold to problem solve themselves. Time for reflective practice will enable them to do this. Effective supervision can also help to address some common issues in case management. Some of the things that managers have told us that occur often are trying to prevent drift, the lack of analysis and problem solving, cases staying open longer than expected, and blurring of professional boundaries. These issues are all intrinsically linked. Our training provides tools to help managers and workers identify blocks, strategies and processes that might overcome some of these recurring themes. Identifying and responding to stress. Another critical feature of supporting staff is helping them to recognise and respond to stress. There are many factors that can both help build resilient workers, but equally compound stress and its impact on individuals and teams. There are multiple factors that interplay together at any one time. In considering the likelihood and severity of stress, there are certain influences to consider. Professional factors. Do workers have access to the right training? Are they receiving good supervision and support? Do they have a sense of accomplishment? And do they feel valued? Clinical factors. What is the nature and chronicity of the problems that workers are coming up against? Are problems consistent and relentless for them? Organisational and managerial systems. What is the culture of the organisation? How supportive is it? And what is the pace of change? Are workers continually going through restructures and service changes, or are there periods of stability and consolidation? Personal resources and vulnerabilities. How well does a worker manage stress? Do they have additional vulnerabilities or personal issues requiring acknowledgement and support? And public and political attitudes. How supportive or negative has media coverage been? Consider whether services are coming under public scrutiny. And finally, record keeping. In Lord Laming's report following the Victoria Climbié case, he identified that record keeping plays a vital role in underpinning supervision and information sharing. His report included saying that local leaders must ensure that children's and young people's information is managed and recorded effectively to reduce their risk of harm. Therefore, it is prudent to review how supervision and case records are written to ensure that they would stand up to scrutiny. So, our supervision training reflects what practitioners and managers have told us they want and need in providing and receiving supervision. The two-day training programme provides practical tools and strategies for managers to support workers, such as models of reflective practice, approaches to critical thinking, and techniques for building more resilient workers and teams. It provides an opportunity to look at templates for supervision records using a range of examples of good practice from different settings. It provides ideas for identifying and supporting block workers and tools for managers and workers to think more creatively when managing and responding to challenging cases. The programme also fits with the new model of working, so is suitable for staff in a whole range of settings, schools, children's centres for instance, as well as targeted family teams. We can also tailor the programme to meet specific needs, and there's always the opportunity to do refresher courses to keep supervision current and fit for purpose. Thank you for listening to this. I'm now going to hand back over to Wendy, who has collated any questions that you might have. Wendy, back over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. I hope you all found that really interesting. I'm just trying to share my screen at the same time. Okay, thank you very much. In terms of questions, we've actually only got one question, Rachel, and that's around schools, because I think schools don't necessarily call this supervision, and it's more about support to staff. So the question is about how can we run this, or how can we support schools in terms of supporting their staff? So if you wouldn't mind just answering that, Rachel.
Yeah, of course. The course that we run is suitable for people that are working in schools, but of course we can tailor a course for all managers and staff that are providing support to those working with families. I think the course offers a framework for providing support and challenge and direction to workers, so ideally providing a rationale for schools to provide more structured support rather than responding to issues in an ad hoc fashion. So I think there is a recognition that the role of support staff in schools has changed, so a more robust system of support does need to be adopted, and I think that this course is definitely suitable for schools because it's not just about one-to-one supervision but actually providing support to people working with parents and families.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. We've got a question from Deo. Deo, his question is around whether we provide this in-house. If you asked that a while ago, hopefully you'll have heard it, but yes, we definitely do. And what we do is that we will speak to you, or Rachel will speak to you, because often it's Rachel providing this, and she will look at your precise needs and make sure that the programme fits exactly what you want. But yes, we definitely provide it in-house. I'm just going to look, because there's one more question from Amanda. Thanks, very helpful. If there's time, could you say a bit more about how managers should prepare to complement your tips about how practitioners should compare? Yeah, that's a really good one, Amanda. And actually, I think Rachel and I would agree that providing effective supervision makes a difference between a good project and not a good project, and it's as much about the manager as it is about the staff member. But Rachel, could you add to that about how managers should prepare?
Yes, well, during the course we look at preparation for supervision. So again, I think it's about thinking about good templates, it's about triangulating, as you said before, and doing that kind of prep between what's happened in supervision, making sure you follow up actions, thinking about what case files are saying, and also thinking about a checklist for sort of individual workers, and thinking about, you know, which workers are better at reflection, how we can better support recall for reflective practice, and all of these things are provided in our training. So we sort of provide a whole toolbox for managers to help them better prepare really for their supervision. I don't know if that answers the question, but I do know that, you know, the course is all about that, both sides of that prep, and helping managers to be better prepared too.
you, Rachel. I thought it's just worth, since a couple of you have already asked about when the training is, that we actually run this, as we said, bespoke courses in-house. We also run it on an open training because we basically look throughout the country at what do we think the workforce needs are. And at the moment, we think it's around people changing their work practices to work with whole families and in terms of supervision. So now the workforce is changing. We think that there's a bit of a gap in terms of providing effective supervision. So we're going to run this 2-day course a couple of times in London and a couple of times in Birmingham over the year. So if you're interested, or have got staff that are interested, London's coming up soon, actually, on March 9th and 10th, and Birmingham June the 22nd and 23rd. So we're going to give it a go and see if there's enough demand to run it openly. If not, obviously we will come and do this in-house, but worth just mentioning that. So if you do want to either discuss that with us or book it, training at Interface Enterprises, as it says down there, or our normal info@ box. So again, have a look at our website if you're interested. It's just interfaceenterprises.co.uk. We've got 2 email addresses, both of which will give you an answer and you'll get responded to. And also we've got a telephone number, and we'd be delighted, obviously, to talk to any of you about supervision or indeed any of our other training or products that we support with. So please give us a ring if there's anything else that you want to know. And finally, if there's no more questions, I'm just checking that there aren't, I'd just like to say thank you very much on behalf of myself and Rachel for joining us today. I hope you found it interesting and informative. I have actually just got a survey of 2 questions that will be sent to you afterwards, because obviously we want to run something that is useful for you, so it's important for us to know for the future. But I'll just put my webcam on and say cheerio, and thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Thank you and goodbye.